Michael Schellenberger, in the last segment, you mentioned mandated rehab, mandated treatment. So what would that look like exactly?
Well, look, I should say, too, that, I don't think addiction itself should be against the law. If you want to be a drug addict and smoke fentanyl all day long in the privacy of your own home, I think that's a terrible choice, but I don't think we should expend law enforcement resources on arresting you. However, if your addiction has led you to camp in public, defecate in public, use drugs publicly, engage in other destructive behaviors, then you should be arrested. You should be evaluated by a social worker or clinical psychologist or psychiatrist, and you should be given the choice. You can either stop your behavior, you can accept shelter, you can accept a medical care and treatment, or if you continue with those illegal behaviors, then yes, there should be consequences, including potentially jail. Many addicts who have achieved recovery say that they needed to be have the threat of jail in order to achieve recovery. So by not requiring that, by not enforcing laws, by exempting people from laws because they are addicts is irresponsible. It's not fair to them, and it's not fair to the rest of the society.
So decriminalization, it's often framed as the compassionate choice. So I wanted to get your view on that. Do you think decriminalization is compassionate? And how do we address the opioid crisis in a compassionate way that might not include decriminalization?
Well, I think that, I don't think that we need to be prioritizing law enforcement responses to people who are addicts and are not breaking any other laws. I think this really comes to the issue of when people are engaging in destructive behaviors publicly. Like I say, I'm a liberal in my compassion, I'm a libertarian in my love of freedom, and I'm conservative in that I think you need civilization and you need law and order in order to have both of them. So I think the key here is, are you engaged in other destructive or antisocial behaviors that are breaking other laws, and are they motivated by your addiction? If that's the case, then you need to be mandated care. Marijuana has been decriminalized in the Netherlands. They've had pretty good results with that. There are some circumstances in the Netherlands where they have supervised drug consumption, but they're always trying to move people into recovery. The goal is recovery. The goal is not addiction maintenance. It's a very cynical view of humans. I think we need to look at our brothers and sisters who are suffering from addiction as fellow humans. We need to see their potential to recover and help them to achieve recovery. So I think that that's the main question. Do you need to decriminalize? Do you need to just enforce laws better? I think that depends a lot on how they do it as much as whether they do it.
One of the new initiatives in Vancouver kind of goes beyond the decriminalization. There's a move for something called safer supply, which would be sort of a government-regulated supply of fentanyl, actually, to ensure that it's not at a dose that would be easier to overdose on. And this would be for sort of hardened addicts. Do you have a perspective on that? We've got about a minute left.
I think that the Netherlands has had the right approach for a very small number of people. I believe it's under 100 people. They do allow some supervised drug consumption with supply provided by the government, but that's only for people for whom Suboxone and methadone and the path to recovery has repeatedly failed. You've got to try to get people into recovery first. You can't go and just start prescribing fentanyl to anybody who wants it. That's a recipe for absolute disaster and death.
And what about your view on the Housing First strategy? Just 30 seconds. It's another initiative in Vancouver.
Well, housing should be used as a reward for people making progress on the path to recovery and abstinence and sobriety. It should not be given as a reward for addiction or for antisocial destructive behaviors. So that's the key. The public has very limited apartment units for people. They should be given as a reward for good behaviors, not as a reward for bad behaviors.